Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Lots of furries showed up to Furry Week in Atlanta, caused some good trouble. And the results came in, and it could have gone one of two ways. Number one is I pre-wrote a little bit of a thing in case it did continue on the projection route and got over the 20,000 attendees, which was what I originally had projected based on growth of the previous 2 years, so between 2024 and 2025. Furry Week in Atlanta's growth, though, was crazy after the pandemic. I mean, record setting. When I did an article on Furry Week in Atlanta 2024, it actually had the record growth of a convention in between years. And what ended up happening was the amount of growth was basically so large that you could fit, at the time, one of its lower competitors into it. Basically, you could take the whole attendance rate of an Anthro New England or a thing and shove it into Furry Week in Atlanta, and then that would be your increase in of attendance. Basically, an upper middle sized FurCon could basically just be the growth that Furry Week in Atlanta experienced. So the challenges of this year was, could that growth sustain? And I am very glad that I didn't invest too much into it like I did with Midwest Fur Fest 2017. I think Midwest Fur Fest 2017 was a risk. I wrote a nice article on it when it crossed Anthrocon back then. But it was I was about 80% sure that it would go. This time I kind of held back a little bit, especially after certain circumstances in the world, which we'll go over in a bit. So what is the results? Well, Anthrocon is still the largest furry convention in the world, and Midwest Fur Fest is still the second largest. And Furry Week in Atlanta has experienced the first decline of attendance, basically since the pandemic, for a top 8 convention. So here is the results. So for those of you who don't know how this works, you can see the numbers on the left side there. The numbers in 2026 in red are projected. From top to bottom, it follows alphabetical order. And the key also on the right there is also in alphabetical order. So if you want to see which, is it in alphabetical order? It should be. I forgot. Oh, you know what I did? I forgot to change this to red. So, hold on. That's why I do this live. So I didn't check myself. So that one in red on line 4 should be in black. It was 20,000 in projection. I forgot to change it to black. I'll write myself to remind you that. But basically, Anthro New England, Furry Fiesta, Furry Week in Atlanta, and Further Confusion have all gone this year. So the second, third, fourth, and fifth number under 2026 should be black. The rest are projected based on inter-year. Now, given that Furry Week in Atlanta had declined in attendance this year, we might see Megaplex, Eurofriend. I don't know about Eurofriends. We'll go over that in a bit. But Midwest Fur Fest, Anthrocon, those things will probably taper off. And I probably shouldn't put a different symbology for Furry Week in Atlanta because blue and green are pretty close in color. So people who are colorblind are probably hating me right now for this chart. But in essence, you could see there is the top 3, and now Megaplex is about to enter the top 4. But there's definitely a growth of the most attended conventions are growing pretty rapidly. But now they're seeming to stagnate a little bit. So Furry Week in Atlanta, as you can see, run up, and now it went down by a little bit, not by too much. Still a healthy size convention, still a healthy organization, and hopefully they can take this respite to settle themselves out. There's a lot of challenges this year as far as growth goes. We continue to, American conventions particularly, continue to have to deal with the adverse conditions when traveling and people feeling, wary about traveling to the United States, especially since our people are a little bit more defensive than they usually are to guests of this country. And we have even like certain countries boycotting the United States, particularly Canada, our neighbors, and things such as that, due to, him saying, want to make Canada the 51st state and whatnot. But even that aside, there's the issue of, over the past few months in particular, increased expenses of travel, typically around the increase in gas prices, which around the United States has increased by about $1.50 a gallon, per gallon. And obviously any car increase costs in fuel is going to also mean any airlines increase costs in fuel, to the point of even like the budget airline Spirit Airlines basically had been forced into bankruptcy due to the increased fuel costs and the low margins that they operated under. So because a lot of furries who travel to these things also probably work under low margins, that can have an impact on travel and people's ability to go to the conventions. I knew people personally who were planning on going to the convention, but they felt exhausted, or they didn't feel like going, or their friends, people they knew weren't going, so they decided to sort of cancel themselves. So like there was certainly a pullback from what I get a feel of in that thing. Obviously growth challenges as well. I heard 2025 was kind of rough as far as like logistics go. I was there in 2024 and it seemed pretty smooth to me, especially with that record-setting growth. So I'm surprised that they had issues too, but then they had growth again. But I think Furry Week in Atlanta did a very good job. They're still quite comfortable in the top 3, and I don't think they're going to go down anytime soon. What might be interesting is if, and I really hope this does not happen, is that like if traveling conditions get even worse, or money gets even more tighter and inflation increases even more, which seems to be coming up the pipe. If the issue is going to be in the future that instead of seeing growth, we're going to see sort of a sort of shrinking going on, like Anthrocons attendance might shrink, or Midwest Fur Fest's attendance might shrink. Obviously Anthrocon is closer to the Midwest Fur Fest, but if Furry Week in Atlanta can go down, that puts a question mark on the continued growth of these other conventions. So I think Megaplex is still going to grow. It still has room to grow, and Florida is a very popular destination for vacations and hangouts. But Anthrocon and the Midwest are kind of not really travel destinations. Neither is Atlanta, really. So like furries tend to like seem to hold their things in places where it's usually not big travel destinations. So since people usually don't go to Pittsburgh and like Rosemont too much, like you could see a decline in those as well, for furries who are looking for a little more value in their vacation time and having to be very wary on how much they spend in these things. But anyways, if you went to Furry Week in Atlanta, share your experience and how you think it went. And the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever. Kick a like, kick the subscribe button, kick a comment in the comment section. We'll see you next time, and hope things go better, and hope things continue to go well for our conventions.